You went live.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't supposed to.
Not yet. But that's okay. We've got another picture.
Oh.
Good? Yeah, so push the banner.
Oh, it covers. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
it's kind of slow.
Yeah, that's neat. Okay.
And then let's see. Pull the banner.
This doesn't matter anymore, right? Because it's going to run on its own, whatever. Okay.
So the ones that follow our code didn't see right?
Oh. On that.
You gotta just make it under the loop, so you can move it over.
And just grab the edge.
Yeah, you grab the top of it and then move it over. And then I still use myself in a lot of things, so like switch the camera views, just to make sure.
Yeah.
So 7 second time. Okay. And then we'll switch to the partial view. And I'm just going to go and start the line. Good. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the final service of 2021. Today we're going to be having a slightly different service order. We're going to be chanting the Shoshinge. I will first do the invocation, Sanbujo, and this will be followed by chanting of Shoshinge in the Sofu style. So if you don't have a white book in front of you, the white book's on the table back there. We'll also be showing the words on the slides. Just to give you a heads up, it's about 14 minutes and I chant really fast. So, but to give it meaning and significance, these are the words written by Shinran Shonin. Seeing that this is our last opportunity to share the Dharma this year, please indulge my preference for Shoshinge. So we'll go with the invocation Sanbujo and then chanting of the Shoshinge. If you get lost, don't worry, it's really hard. And if you'd like to offer incense during the chanting, you may do so as well. And this will be followed by the children's Dharma story, a short one, Dharma talk. We'll sing the Gatha in the Nembutsu, do a little bit of meditation, and then we'll have Toshikoshi soba, so the traditional Japanese soba noodles after the service. So we shall begin. Namanna, Ritsanamanna, Ritsanamanna, Ritsanamanna. No. We respectfully call upon the Tathagata Amida, the Tathagata Shakyamuni, and the Tathagatas of the 10 directions to enter this place of practice, joyfully scattering flowers of welcome. Namanna, Vitsanamanda, Vitsanamanda, Vitsanamanda. No.
唯説にだ本願会五直惑自群上会大信如来如実論納発一年期愛心普段論の特例派本上逆法祭へ入修士入が一味摂取信号上昇後異能水波無明な頓内心臓死運無上部真実真人伝異名に個部運無死下妙無逆心謙虚大行儀即応上絶望悪臭一切善悪門部人門信如来偶然願仏言古代小下者善人妙分大理に他仏本願念仏茶見行万悪症状信行十字人に南中死な昔インドサ天使論芸中華自治域思考素現代諸国聖書意如如来本税大き釈迦如来ヨガ戦一種五妙な天智優柔内知出道性質の財宝無限先絶大乗無情報召喚議事小安楽返事難行六六信行異行指導ら特年に他仏本願自念即時入筆上有の上昇如来語応報な非偶然門天神菩薩像論説奇妙無下公如来霊種ただ見真実高世の頂戴世間こういう本願力へこ異道群上昇一心非入空独大崩壊必逆入内へ収集特殊年芸造世界即昇進如法精進有門の人間人図入生自用自用芸本師論難両天使上高蘭小菩薩大三蔵流子十上教本上宣教喜楽法天神菩薩論中下報道因果現世願法言名語ゆたり少女死類新人惑星門部新人没承知承知即無犯一子無病公明道勝負主上下土砂結晶道難所唯一の道が通入万全力変論中変満独語全書三悪三神経本能総末法滅道品一生上悪事偶然支配如外小名 仙道六名武将意高愛上三女逆悪法名名語権威面愛女が第一回行者少女更新狂気知念相互行儀大道逆三即小小子上楽変身公開一大行天気安養管理祭先祖出身安先人法権二の正面流60悪に優勝物外悪さ非摂取中本の証言水部権大義務権長所が本資源無病仏教年民全悪の部民新宗教所合編集戦弱本願愚悪性現代生じ人面へ決式上位昇進即入邪教無義楽一新人義の入仏教内自主指導上祭無変極上不和道蔵不自主不動心有意過信心高速性ナマンダーブツナマンダーブツナマンダーブツナマンダーブツナマンダー。 Let's sit together quietly for a few moments. So just relax and get comfortable. If you're able, sit forward in your seat and place both feet flat on the ground. Now sit up straight and align your head, neck, shoulders, and back in a straight line that goes down to the floor. Place your hands comfortably in your lap. Now close your eyes and just breathe. Breathe in and breathe out. In and out. As you breathe in, you feel energy filling your body. And as you breathe out, any stress or worries in your mind just fade away. Just breathe. The sound of the gong will signal the end of our quiet meditation. It's changing slides on its own.
So, good evening. I'd just like to share a very short story for the children's Dharma story time. And this is a story called The Rabbit in the Moon. And it's a Japanese folktale. And it goes something like this. Once upon a time, the old man of the moon looked down into a big forest on the earth. He saw a rabbit, a monkey, and a fox living together in the forest as very good friends. Now, I wonder which of them is the kindest, the old man said to himself. I think I'll go down and see. So he changed himself into an old beggar and came down from the moon to the forest where the three friends were. Please help me, he said to them. I'm very, very hungry. Oh, what a poor old beggar, said the three friends. And they went hurrying off to find some food for him. The monkey found and brought the beggar a lot of fruit. And the fox caught a big fish for him to eat. But the rabbit just couldn't find anything at all to bring. Oh my, what shall I do? The rabbit cried. But just then he had an idea. Please, Mr. Monkey, the rabbit said, gather some firewood for me. And please, Mr. Fox, make a big fire with the firewood. The monkey and the fox did as their friend had asked. And when the fire was burning brightly, the rabbit said to the beggar, I don't have anything to give you. So I'll put myself in this fire, and when I'm cooked, you can eat me. The rabbit was just about to jump into the fire when the beggar suddenly changed himself back into the old man of the moon. You're very kind, Mr. Rabbit, he said, but you should never do anything to harm yourself. Since you're the kindest of all, I'll take you home to live with me. And then the old man of the moon took the rabbit into his arms and carried him up to the moon. So, when you look at the moon, when it is shining brightly, you can still see the rabbit there where the old man took him so long ago. The end. Isn't that cool? A rabbit on the moon. Well, tonight it's a crescent moon and it's probably raining and cloudy, so you probably can't see the moon. But the next time there's a full moon, let's go outside and check it out. Well, gee, Sensei, maybe that's why I like to howl at the moon. Because there's a rabbit in there? Well, I never thought of that. I also love the story of the moon being made of green cheese. Imagine that. Barclay and Lucy, I'd like to thank you for being my friends this year and helping Sensei out with the children's Dharma story time. I couldn't do it without you. Well, we know that, Sensei. You need us. That's why I'm Barclay the dog, the star of the show. And this here is Lucy the ladybug, the love of my life. And let's remember to thank our Dharma buddies from around the world for being our friends and joining us every week. But just remember, be good, but not too much. Okay. So anyway, if you look at the picture of the moon, can you see the rabbit? I don't know. So Mimi's from Tokyo, so she's shaking her head. Of course I can see the rabbit. Every time I have tried to see the rabbit, I see the man on the moon. American culture. But yeah, you can sort of there's two ears kind of sticking out, maybe the body. The other way it's portrayed is that he's making mochi. The rabbit is pounding mochi, so it's this round thing, he's holding a mortar kind of thing. So anyway, next full moon, take a look at the moon and see what you see. So, 108 Bonno, 108 blind passions and counting. So this is a Dharma talk for adults, so children, you may now go run off and do whatever you want to do. So on New Year's Eve, we observe Joya no Kane, the Japanese Buddhist tradition of ringing the temple bell. Usually it would be the very large temple bell in the front of the temple, 108 times, to remind us of the 108 blind passions that bind us as human beings to samsara, this world of egocentric delusion. So in Japan, on New Year's Eve, the sound of temple bells ringing around one's neighborhood, around the city, and all throughout Japan is a poignant reminder of reality as it is, the truth of impermanence, the insight that this moment is unrepeatable, that this life is unrepeatable. And so you're going to see things like this, this is kind of a funny video, so hopefully, I think I lost my speaker. Anyway, I'll play it off with this thing here. This is a video clip from YouTube, so I think I click on it. Just for your information, that's actually from the Chon-in, which was the main temple of the Pure Land tradition, so Jodoshu. So Shinran's great teacher Honen, this would be where he's headquartered. But just the size of the bell you can see, and you can imagine that around the city, every temple has one of these things, and it goes off up until midnight. There's a very famous Japanese poem that says, "The bell of the Gion temple tolls into every man's heart to warn him that all is vanity and evanescence." So again, addressing the truth of impermanence. So the number 108, you hear this a lot, and so there's 108 Bonno, or in Sanskrit you would say klesa, blind passions, sometimes translated as defilements or afflictions that are inherent in human existence. And this is how they come to 108. So, in traditional Buddhist thought, people are said to have 108 afflictions, or klesas. There are 6 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and consciousness, multiplied by 3 reactions: positive, negative, or indifferent, making 18 feelings. Each of these feelings can either be attached to pleasure or detached from pleasure, making 36 passions, each of which may be manifested in the past, present, or future. Pretty confusing. From a Jodo Shinshu perspective, I don't have a slide for this one. Blind passions is a comprehensive term that we use to describe all the forces, which are conscious and unconscious, that propel unenlightened persons to think and act and speak and feel, whether it's in happiness or sorrow, in such a way as to cause uneasiness, frustration, torment, pain, sorrow, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically for yourselves and others. So Buddhism makes this very detailed and subtle analysis of the blind passions and talks about craving and anger, delusion, arrogance, doubt, wrong views. Fundamentally, our human nature is rooted in a fierce clinging to this evil, karmically evil self, which constitutes the basis of our existence. And so when we realize this truth about ourselves, we see that the human condition itself is nothing but blind passions. So I am nothing except my anger, my greed, my ignorance, my delusions. And so just to live, or wanting to live as an unenlightened being, is to manifest blind passions at all times, regardless of what we may appear to be or what we like to think we are. We are actually just driven by these blind passions. And so when we only come to know this through the illumination of great compassion and wisdom. And so in the Jodo Shinshu tradition, we talk about awakening to our human nature as the wisdom of Shinjin. The person who awakens to this reality as it is has already been grasped by Amida's primal vow, and says Nam Amida Butsu is a way to repay a debt of gratitude for Amida's great love and great compassion working in our lives. And so the tolling of the temple bell 108 times is a reminder of the truth of our bonno, our blind passions, as well as our aspiration, our wish, our hope to cast off these blind passions through awakening, enlightenment, nirvana, or the assurance of birth in the Pure Land, in our unrepeatable life, which leads to this great enlightenment, the oneness with Amida. So the formal nenju, the formal beads that ordained priests and the Honganji use for ceremonies have 108 beads. And it looks like this. So one big strand with 108 beads, half of them are black and half of them are clear. This is to remind ordained priests that just because we're ordained and we get to wear the robes and I get to come up here and do fancy ceremonies and stuff, I'm no better than anyone else. In other words, yeah, maybe because I'm a priest, half of my bonno are clear, but the rest of it is black as night. So here's a bit of New Year's Eve trivia. You can tell your friends at your New Year's Eve party. By strict Honganji rules, only the Gomonshu, only the chief priest of the Honganji, who's the gentleman on the right there, is allowed to use a nenju in the altar area with 108 clear beads. Right, so technically, I'm not allowed to use this when I'm dressed in my formal ceremonial robes doing a formal ceremony in the altar, because this would represent my arrogance that I am somehow better than everybody else, which is not true, at least in our tradition. So it's an interesting kind of cultural difference there. So this is, and this was pounded into our heads during the ordination retreat. Remember, every time you pick this up, don't get a big head, is kind of the message they give you. Because that's at the heart of the Jodo Shinshu tradition. So here, today, on New Year's Eve, as we listen to these illegal aerial bombs going off all over the place, let's reflect deeply on our own human nature, as revealed to us by the pandemic conditions of 2021. A lot less people sitting here in the hall, and we're all wearing masks, and we all disinfected our hands. And if you're watching from home, very reasonable decision to avoid the potential risks of the virus. But at the same time, right, this is a reminder to us that we are afflicted with these bonno, blind passions, as unenlightened persons. I mean, we'd like to think of ourselves as enlightened, but we're not Buddha yet. And it's these blind passions that drive us to think and feel and act and speak, right, in a way that causes quote-unquote suffering. Uneasiness, frustration, anxiety, stress, depression, addiction. All of these things are driven by the self. So let's let the sound of the temple bell, ringing 108 times, resonate in our hearts and minds. And so with the hope, right, that as each strike of the bell, the sound fades away, so will our stubborn egocentric attachment to ourself, if we're so lucky. So I'd like to close with the words of Shinran Shonin. I'm sorry, I missed one slide. There's the technical definition of blind passions. It's a kind of a long quote, so I broke it up into 3 parts. In reflecting on the great ocean of Shinjin, I realized there is no distinction between noble and humble, or black-robed monks and white-clothed laity. No differentiation between man and woman, old and young. The amount of evil one has committed is not considered. The duration of any performance of religious practices is of no concern. It is a matter of neither practice nor good acts, neither sudden attainment nor gradual attainment, neither meditative practice nor non-meditative practice, neither right contemplation nor wrong contemplation, neither thought nor no thought, neither daily life nor the moment of death, neither many callings or one's callings. It is simply changing that is inconceivable, inexplicable, and indescribable. It is like the medicine that eradicates all poisons. The medicine of the Tathagata's vow destroys the poisons of our wisdom and foolishness. The words of Shinran Shonin. Namo Amitabha. Well, thank you very much for coming to tonight's Joya-e service. Everyone's welcome to join us tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the New Year's Day service, the first service of the new year, both in person and live stream. That'll be 9 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. So let's close this evening service by singing Ondok-san and Gratefulness. Hopefully, sorry, wrong script. Let's close by singing the Nembutsu. Through great love, which is Amida's directing of virtue for our going forth, we attain great compassion, which is Amida's directing of virtue for our return. If not for the Buddha's directing of virtue, how could we realize enlightenment in the Pure Land? The wisdom of Shinran Shonin, which you can find in the hymns of the Dharma ages. Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha. So tomorrow, New Year's Day, we'll have a sunrise service at 6:30, chanting of the Shoshin at 8:30, and then the New Year's Day service will be at 9 o'clock in the morning Again, a somewhat modified, shorter service than normal. So if you would like to join us tomorrow, everyone would be welcome. And then for this evening, we'll be serving toshikoshi soba, it's a traditional Japanese buckwheat noodles, to mark the passing of the year, as it were. And this would be in the social hall. On your way out, the lanai side, I would encourage everyone to strike the bell, the temple bell, as symbolic gesture of marking one of the 108 blind passions. And I think that's it. That's everything. So thank you very much, and this will conclude this evening's service. Okay, thank you very much, Jane. We can go to the Kansho camera and use that maybe. Yep, and then people can leave it. So, thank you very much. So, Christine, a little bit later. I was when you were doing more practice days.
Yeah, so it was the book. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you. I don't even know what it is, but I don't even know what it's in here. So, what it is, more practice days.
Meditation and
yes.
chatting.
We do meditation. We do meditation, and then we would have a Dharma talk. This is what they would do all day. And a lot of times it was people and songwriters like asking questions or, asking different philosophical questions or
Yes.
questions
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So that was like most people.
I think you'll find that because of the issue you're taking over like 2 years ago, just completely they also came over their holidays. And so the temples are talking about multiplication. Like everybody really had other and then over time, transitions to more hybrid, and nowadays it's supposed to be closed. It's a hybrid. It's going to be it's a new age.
Did you guys close down your temple for a year and a half?
I really like encourage people to stay home.
Yeah.
It's sort of like this. You got to give it a little Sunday, yeah, the second, I said, we got a service one.
Turn it up.
Give it a break.
Okay.
And then the 9th, I'm going to be away on the 16th, in theory, I'm going to be in Palm. They might say, I'll stay away.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay, cool. Well,
But yeah, so then usually Sundays, we're probably working, so like we have
A lot of the stuff we're using in the morning just
Okay, yeah, there you go.